Have you ever been on an interview? Have you ever been the person responsible for conducting an interview? Most people will go on numerous interviews in their life, but few people fully understand the structure, the purpose, and the process behind interviewing. What is an interview exactly, and what is its purpose? An interview can be defined as a formal meeting for the assessment of the qualification of an applicant. According to Arizona State University, the purpose of an interview is to obtain information from a candidate and evaluate their qualifications. An interview is a form of two-way communication that takes place between an applicant and a hiring party. The structure of an interview is set up similar to most forms of communication. It has an intro, a body, and a conclusion. During the introductory stage, the applicant is introduced to the hiring party and basic information is exchanged. The body, or the bulk of the interview, is where the more detailed information is exchanged. Information regarding the job, the qualifications necessary to fill the position, and the interviewee's qualifications. The interviewee provides specific information such as experience and educational background during this stage of the interview. Lastly is the closing. Any final questions or issues are normally addressed during this stage, and the interviewer decides whether or not the interview will go on to the next stage, which is usually a second interview or the hiring process. Based on the information obtained from the interviewee, the interviewer can now assess the goals of the interview and whether or not they were met by the interviewee. Valine Tucker is a corporate level manager for Regions Bank in Louisiana. She conducts hiring for multiple branches in the district and is a very skilled interviewer. Her first experiences with interviews came shortly after high school when she performed her first interview for a job at a local Wendy's. She soon went on to become manager of Wendy's and later would conduct multiple interviews for applicants. She later went on to interview for a position at Regions Bank, where she is now manager and performs multiple interviews on a very regular basis. When conducting an interview, Valine's main goal is typically to evaluate the qualifications of an interviewee and their capacity to perform the job. Depending on the job she is conducting the interview to fill, the qualifications will be different, and therefore the goals of the interview will also vary. If the applicant is able to provide the necessary qualifications, the purpose of the interview is ultimately met. By conducting interviews and training other managers to do the same, Valine is able to further develop her interviewing skills. As she conducts interviews and trains others, she further develops patterns, techniques, and further develops in communication. Some of her other responsibilities in the organization include productivity management, customer service, and sometimes even opening and closing accounts. When asked, Valine stated that her very first interview was both the worst and the best. It was worse because, being the first one, she was inexperienced, ill-prepared, and quite nervous. It was the best because it was a great learning experience and ultimately sparked her desire to become better at interviewing and eventually led to the position that she holds now. During her time working with interviews, Valine has learned that preparation and practice before and after an interview are good tools to develop interviewing skills. Interviews are almost always stressful, and interviews will be different based on things like the applicant, the hiring party, and sometimes even things like gender or culture play a role in the interviewing process. For example, men and women communicate differently. Men tend to be more one-track minded and lead with their main point from the beginning. Women tend to provide more details and context before stating the main point. Also, in some cultures and countries, how you behave during an interview is more important than what you actually know. No matter what the interview, practice and preparation beforehand and a personal assessment after the interview are great tools in order to further develop comfort when going on an interview and are good methods to ensure every interview is a successful one.